provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act, the Highland Park Board of Education has given adequate notice of this meeting by having published the date, time, and place of this meeting in the Home News Tribune and has posted notice of this meeting at Bartle School, 435 Mansfield Street, Highland Park, New Jersey. Linda, can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Aversa? Ms. Berkowitz?
Here.
Ms. Bull? Ms. Cimarosti?
Here.
Mr. Dietz?
Here.
Mr. Ross?
Here.
Ms. Scherber?
Here.
Mr. Sherman?
Here.
Mr. Wharton?
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to approve the minutes, the regular public and executive session minutes from September 22nd.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion about anything that was in the minutes? Okay, Linda?
Ms. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Ms. Bull? I'm sorry, Ms. Cimarosti?
Yes.
Mr. Dietz?
Abstain.
Mr. Ross?
Abstain.
Ms. Scherber?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Abstain.
Mr. Wharton?
Yes. I don't think it passes.
We have a quorum. We have a majority.
It's a majority, right?
Of the seated board.
Okay. Linda, communications?
There were a few emails related to policies, one about handicap accessibility. I think that might have been it. And the school board convention is coming up at the end of the month. Darcy Cimarosti will be gone.
Okay. All right, Israel, superintendent's report.
Let's begin with the students' report.
Good timing, Vivek. No.
Okay, so recently I've talked to the science teachers, and they're in the process of possibly applying to attend a workshop in Trenton, and it would prepare the teachers for the next-gen science standards. So these standards are similar to like Common Core standards, but strictly for science courses. And also another achievement is senior Sarah Chang applied for Samsung Mobile App Academy over the summer, and she was accepted. And so this academy is it's like a workshop for juniors and seniors to design apps. And also we've started our Spirit Week in high spirits. Spirit Week themes are established, the grades of students are excited, and we've completed our first day. And the top place are juniors, and then it's seniors. So also our homecoming dance. The game is scheduled for Saturday at 3 p.m. and the event is mostly family themed. Various activities for both kids and adults, such as face painting and kids games. It's gonna be really fun, and it'd be great if you guys got the word out to your family and friends and the community. So also, the football team greatly appreciates the planned transfer of the existing weight room into a fitness room located in the old teacher's lounge. It's gonna really expand their capability of practicing and all that. Also, the cross-country girls are still undefeated with, as of now, a record of 7-0, so it's pretty good. Thank you.
So the audition processes for the fall arts programs have both occurred. Both of the student a cappella groups, AA and Amandala, have begun rehearsing, and so has the fall play, Brighton Beach Memoirs, which happens in December. Those are the issues.
So some issues. It's mostly been quiet this week, but not many. But the Chromebook issue from the last meeting, the issue with registering for the Google accounts, it's mostly resolved now. However, some students have reported inconsistent internet connections while using them in class, and our AP English classes are at the forefront of experiencing this problem. However, currently, I've talked to Mr. Lasseter, and the problem is being addressed. Also, some students have asked if, what kind of, they've expressed concerns of the heating in the building. I'm sure it shouldn't be too much of a problem. They just want to know, how it's going to feel like in the winter season. Also, this is a request or more of a doubt that some varsity sports players have had. They want to know that what kind of participation they have to they have to give in gym classes, and investigation into this question and how this will be, this issue will be, I guess, addressed in the future is being conducted. Also, do you want to do solve problems?
Okay. So we'd like to conduct a student survey to compile information regarding the Highland Park High School website. So how frequently students and their parents use the website, what problems they experience when they use the website, and what improvements they'd like to see. We also open it up to if you guys have any surveys we'd like to run. We did talk to teachers. I think this fits under solving problems, though it's not noted. And I know that we're student Board of Education reps. The teachers really appreciated when we reached out to them because, what affects the teachers affects the students. So I just wanted to put in here that the teachers are really happy that the students are involved in their education.
So the survey, obviously everything goes through Mr. Lasseter, which I imagine you've been told.
Yeah, we talked to him before the meetings, and he's fine with it.
Okay, great.
The overall district website, depending on budget numbers coming up, may be a summer project for us for the upcoming year, because we do acknowledge that it does need to be improved.
The report that you gave us is great, by the way. It's very detailed, and we appreciate it. So keep it up. Keep up the good work, and let us know what you find out.
I have a question about the homecoming. What was today's theme? Was it crazy hats
first
or
year.
was it pajamas?
No, it was pajamas.
And what is tomorrow?
Tomorrow is superhero, supervillain,
Okay.
comic book, kind of, yeah.
And then Wednesday?
Wednesday's Crazy Hat Day. Thursdays is Decade Day, so we have a decade that is going to be a theme for our hallways. So each class has to dress up like their decade. For example, the seniors are the 60s. And then Friday is always Color Wars. So
The T-shirts.
yeah.
Thank you, because I have a son, and he didn't know which day it was today.
Okay.
So he went with his pajamas and a crazy hat. So I guess he got points
Yeah, he did.
for
He definitely did.
pajamas.
I just have a quick follow-up for you guys. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, at our last meeting, you had said that you guys had heard from the students that they were interested in clarification of the Bring Your Own Technology policy.
Right. Oh, yeah, right.
Is that something you guys are still looking for, something that you've gotten? Is that something we...
I think we found out, Lasseter clarified some things for us. So a lot of it is up to the teacher's discretion, especially now, since there's somewhere between 1 and 3 people that are working on getting the network secure. So if you don't have a permitted device, then you're knocked off the Wi-Fi. But that hasn't happened yet. So a lot of students still use their Wi-Fi, and it's at the teacher's discretion. So until that program is fully up and running, it's hard to really be disciplinary and strict about the exact rules for the technology.
Okay, so students at this point aren't looking for further clarification on that particular policy? You guys got what you needed? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Israel?
I would like to publicly thank Stop and Shop for donating their extra school supplies to all of our schools. Very generous of them, so we're very appreciative to Stop and Shop for doing so. Our Gifted and Talented Program presentations will take place October 16th at Bartle School, 7 o'clock. Location, the Media Center. This presentation will be given by Wendy, the gifted and talented teacher, to all of the parents whose children are participating in the program. After that presentation, we will be presenting and rolling out the program so the community can know what the program entails. So we will be sharing the program with the community. ESL, we do have the task force. Task force will be meeting with Bill, the special ed supervisor, Shalala, and they're going to be assessing and providing recommendations. In the meantime, we are aware, and I want everyone to know that I am aware that meeting the needs of all of our students, it's a challenge. It's been brought to my attention by various parents, and I really appreciate those parents that have reached out and have had sincere conversations with me. I want to assure you that we are looking at it. The clock is ticking, I understand, and we need to resolve the situation as expeditiously as possible. One of the things that we are doing is, through a partnership with Rutgers University, we were going to be providing with additional support. For those that think that this is just a Band-Aid and we're just going to throw in a body, that is far from the truth. The student teachers that are participating in this program are ESL teachers. So this will provide them the opportunity for immense experience, and they will be servicing only ESL. This is to provide that additional in-house, in-classroom support so the teachers then can meet the needs of other students also. This is just the beginning. One of the things that we're hoping is that many of them will volunteer. So thus far, and this is in the planning stages, once a week, but if we can get a few to volunteer at least 3 days a week, that will certainly help us greatly. So that's in the back burner right now. We're hoping to begin sometime next week, and I'll, at the next board meeting, I'll give you more details what this is going to look like.
I'm sorry, do I understand correctly? You're saying that would be a volunteer once a week in the classroom?
Right, once a week, and we're hoping that that's going to be part of the program, but in terms of volunteering, that's something extra. They want that extra experience that they can add to their resumes. I haven't met them yet, so I'm going to be having conversations with them and Mary Karan about that. So that's in the plan. The Gifted and Talented program at Bartle has started. It's the pull-out program, so that's started already. No news sometimes is good news, so I haven't heard any negative comments about the actual program, and I'll be visiting classrooms to assess the situation. I'm also going to be visiting many of the classrooms to see ESL instruction, see what's really going on. I sort of like to see it myself rather than hearing it from a third party. So I will be making a lot of visits. I would like to congratulate Greg Gervin. He received an award. Mr. Greg Gervin was honored by Stanford University for exceptional teaching. He was nominated for the Oscar Lees as an incredible educator in person. His class explores a plethora of issues and topics. It is always interesting because of the engaging discussions. Stanford was pleased to sponsor the Teacher Tribute Initiative and to acknowledge the dedication of educators contribute as mentors to today's youth. So publicly, congratulations, Greg. We're getting ready for CUSAC, and as such, all districts are required to self-assess and submit a statement of assurance. We had completed our statement of assurance, and we just were notified some additional areas. It is very important for us when we self-assess to self-assess accurately and as honestly as possible. And so, at first, we thought we had 100% in all the areas. So there are 5 areas of accountability with CUSAC. And the areas are instruction and program, fiscal management, governance, personnel, and operations. We scored 100 with the exception of instruction and program. By the way, this is a self-assessment. We might have reached 100. However, there was just one particular item that we felt that we're not there yet for us to score 100, and that was in the area of benchmarking for ESL and special needs kids. And so that's an area that I would like to explore a little more before we rate ourselves 100. That was the only area, and that is why we decided to rate ourselves an 80, which is fine also. So. That's 4 out of the 5 items. That's in terms of CUSAC. I believe this report is due October 15th. Am I correct, Linda? Thank you.
And Israel, I did have a quick question about the CUSAC report. In looking at it, it asks us to self-assess where we are with our curriculum, and I guess basically they're asking about the alignment to the core content standards. we have that the newest revision approval date was 9/2014 for ELA and math, which we absolutely did. The board approved at our first meeting in September, the ELA and math curriculum. To my knowledge, however, we have not, unless we're saying it's rolled into the ELA curriculum, we have not approved standards for science, for social studies, world languages isn't filled in. So, I mean, but we have put in there that for science and social studies, that was also approved in September. To my knowledge, that's not the case.
Okay. I'm going to have to look into that one because I was.
I mean, the motion was very
specific.
specifically for ELA and math.
Right.
So unless I missed something somewhere, we still haven't approved new.
I could be wrong, but doesn't it say not complete for science on page 5 of 16? Towards the end of that page, it's got science and social studies. The assessment says does not meet all requirements outlined.
Well, it says that for everything. But it says newest revision approval date 9/2014.
Sorry, I was seeing September 2011. Yeah, you're right. And we didn't, you're right.
I kind of remember, I'm sort of remembering a whole list of curriculum that was completed.
It was completed, but it wasn't approved. We received a draft curriculum that it contained science, social studies, ELL, but the only thing that we approved were ELA and math. I went back and I checked the agenda and the minutes.
Okay.
Can you describe the CUSAC process? What happens from here, Israel?
Well, this year, to my understanding, the CUSAC process is going to be a little different. To my knowledge, it's going to be more differentiated for every district, and they have not rolled it out yet, so we really don't know. At the last superintendent's roundtable, they indicated that they're still rolling it out, so we're just waiting. Right now, we are in preparation. We know the components, and so we're trying to be compliant in all of the areas. So we don't know what are the areas that we're going to be looked at. However, we're trying to be in compliant with every area, regardless of how differentiated it is. Okay, great.
Okay, do you have anything else?
No.
Okay. Motion to, yes. Should we read this in? Or do we need to?
There, you see.
Okay, so we just need a motion for number 1 for the approval of submission of the NJ CUSAC Statement of Assurance for the 2014-15 school year. We need a motion.
So moved.
Would that, sorry, before we move, would that be read in with the adjustments of striking out the approval date for science and social studies?
I think so, yeah. Is there a second?
Is it just, I don't,
Second.
Anne?
And I second it.
Okay, any further discussion? Linda?
I'm confused. What are we reading in? Just as it is, subtracting the social studies and science approval dates?
We're striking that through.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Ms. Simorowski?
yes.
Mr. Dietz?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Scherber?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Wharton?
Yes.
Claire, could we have the curriculum report, please?
Yes. The curriculum committee did meet tonight. We discussed benchmarks for some of the courses. We also discussed what Mr. Soto referenced, the idea of having graduate students from the ESL training program at Rutgers be volunteers in the sheltered instruction classes, which have a high number of ELL students. And we also discussed some professional development opportunities that are coming up. The literacy coach has visited 3 full days with kindergarten, is that KS? With kindergarten classes. There'll be 3 more full-day literacy coach visits for grades 3 through 5. There'll be more sheltered instruction PD.
I'm sorry, can you go back? What's the literacy coaches?
What are they?
Yeah, no, what, is this part of a program, or is this?
What are the literacy coaches?
Yeah,
It's somebody that works here, right? It's a position here.
No, no,
No, we ripped
these are
literacy.
professional development that were purchased during the summertime to provide professional development in the areas of literacy, of math, right? But this is a professional development company. They're just coaches.
They're coming, I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're coming.
It's professional development to come in and
Development.
work with teachers, or it's professional development to come in and work with students? I thought
No,
from
no,
what
no,
Claire
to
was
work with
saying.
teachers.
To work with teachers, okay.
Yes.
I thought what Claire was saying was this was to work with students. So it's to work with the teachers in grades 3 through 5. Okay.
Okay. There's also going to be professional development in project-based learning for middle school and high school, in ELA and social studies. There will also be park training for middle school and high school teachers. On our agenda, let's see. Field trips, approval of university students for teaching internships and practicum observations, and the appointment of a presenter for professional development workshops. And that's all.
Adam is going to do the finance report, but Ashley's stepped out because he's ill. I'm going to make a motion to just take a 5-minute recess.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Second.
Darcy moved it. Darcy moved, Greg second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All, yes. Okay, Adam,
Yes.
we have a finance committee report?
Yes.
Could we ask a quick question about the curriculum before we do finance? So benchmarks they're state mandated, right?
No.
No? So we were wondering then if the board knows whether or not, if there's like a policy regarding benchmarks being factored into the student's final grade? Because right now it's like it's just up to the teacher's discretion. We were wondering if there's like an overall policy, because for some teachers they don't include it and some they do.
So it's definitely not a board policy. That would be an administrative prerogative. That would probably be determined by the building principal. Have you given any particular directives about how benchmarks count in students' grades?
No, I have not, but I have had individual conversations with the principals, and it's to my knowledge that they will be factored in these benchmarks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's more of a global approach, a more comprehensive approach to a final grade. Thanks.
We should, however, standardize it across the district, no matter what we do. All right, the Finance Committee met tonight. We discussed a number of items on the agenda. We want to thank the HPEF for providing a grant for DECA program, which is a great program that we put on for future business leaders. We also want to report out that the Bartle School window replacement is on track, and hopefully it will be completed by December 31st at the rate of about 1 room per day, and taking advantage of the breaks that we have to do the bigger rooms during those times. We are waiting for the parts to arrive for the Irving and Bartow School playgrounds, and those we've received those requests for proposals and are just waiting for the parts. I'm excited to announce that we also have negotiated a favorable contract for new copier machines for the district, which will be an addendum on your agenda. This new contract will provide us with 19 new copiers, and an advantage also a printing management system, which will also figure out our efficiencies and where we may be able to reduce printers and provide and push copies and printers to certain locations to reduce the overall quantity that we have. We also the sign at the high school, which was paid for through out of student activities funds, the construction of that will begin hopefully tomorrow, if not this week or next, to be completed. That is all from the Finance Committee. Any questions?
On the copiers on the addendum?
Yep.
How many copiers again?
19.
19. So,
And they're just lease only.
okay, I mean, this is the award of the lease. This is me just trying to think about how we've seen things show up. Usually there's something that talks about we've considered these vendors,
Yeah.
and then there's another item that says this is the vendor we're awarding.
This is not a bid. It's
Okay.
not an RFP. This was a request for quotes from state contract vendors.
So you evaluated a number of vendors, but because of the way you
Yeah.
did it, you don't have to report on that? Is that?
Correct. We sent out specifications to 11 vendors. We received 9 proposals back, and we evaluated their proposals based upon a number of different factors. In this case, you don't have to go with the low bid, so to speak. This happened to be so significantly lower that, and they fulfilled all of the other requirements that we had put forth in our specifications.
And we got it certified in writing from the vendor that they will meet all of our requirements.
And the wording of the motion was after consultation with the attorney, due to the fact that it's not a bid and it's not a proposal. We're not required to list the bid amounts because it's not just a bid amount. There are a number of factors that they had to meet.
All right, just curious how that process worked. Thank you.
And your anticipated date for these?
No later than November 1st. We are going to be contacting them tomorrow to begin at Bartle School, which has the greatest need, the most urgent need. We're hoping that they can at least start getting us some copiers by the end of the week in the most urgent need places.
And with the contract, it provides us 700,000 copies, which we think will meet our needs. And hopefully with more technology, we'll also not need to have such a large bundle as well.
Do these copiers scan?
Some will.
They scan, they print, they duplex copy, they staple. The ones in the board office and business office will punch holes.
Good.
We're not going for ultra fancy. We don't need them to fax. But they do have scanning capability. They will all be networked. So we will be able to print to the copier as well as scan and send documents to other places. I would think our computers.
Great.
Ways.
Can I just ask a quick question about 9? I just have no idea what that means. Approval for
It's an annual contract for non-public nursing services.
And what does that mean? What does that have to do with us?
We receive state aid, which is a flow-through. We're required to provide certain services to non-public schools, but only to the extent that the state aid allows. We contract with Middlesex Regional Ed Services Commission to manage the contract because they deal with a lot of non-publics and they could do it most efficiently. And the state identifies the non-public schools that are entitled to the funding. This is the school that was designated as being entitled by the state.
So is it like a state-approved preschool or something?
It's a non-public school that probably has applied to the state for this particular service. Other schools may not need nursing services, so they may have a student that is in need of nursing services. The word I was thinking was administer. The Ed Services Commission administers the contract. So they provide the nursing services for that non-public school, or they arrange for the provision of those services on our behalf. So that's what this contract is. And we are required to approve it annually. And this simply identifies the schools that are being served by this funding.
Right. So it doesn't have a dollar amount attached, it's just kind of this...
It's to the extent of the funding that the state has provided us.
Right.
It's we are a flow-through.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And personnel?
Personnel Committee met tonight. We discussed a maternity leave. We discussed a teacher who's moving up on the guide, and we discussed 2 sort of temporary short-term appointments to assist in clerical work in 2 of the schools.
Any questions on anything from personnel? Thank you, Ann. Adam, policies?
Yes, there are a number of policies for first reading. I'm going to do this in a meticulous way. I would like to go through each one, if anybody has any comments on them, instead of doing them all as a batch. So we'll start with the first one, but I also just want to report that the policy committee did not meet tonight. We are going to be scheduling a meeting in the near future to talk about policies that have not been moved yet for first reading that need to be done by the end of the year. So we will set that up. So I would like to first start with policy 1230. Does anybody have any comments on policy 1230?
I got a couple, well,
Do we do this part now or after when we move everything? Like we do this now and then we move it at the end?
Do it now so that the public
don't-
can comment on it.
On
when
whatever we
when it's
talk
public
about?
comment.
Okay, cool, thank you.
so for 1230, I feel like we had this a while ago, and then we tabled it because the question, I think I asked the question, why were these items struck out?
Right.
And what's the implication? I mean, it seemed like we were taking out things that seemed like they were important components of a superintendent's job.
You're absolutely correct. We had this
So-
on the agenda on April 7th for first reading, and then this with a whole bunch of other ones. And then these two got tabled, and
What are
we
your-
just never been back to them.
I don't understand why we're removing these,
Right.
that's why.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
like
my
number
question.
5, it says makes recommendations with reference to the location and size of new school sites and of additions to existing sites. Like, why are we striking that out?
And if that's
Like,
not the superintendent's
We-
job, then who is it?
We are not striking anything. The state is striking.
But it doesn't mean that we can't put it back in.
It does not mean we can't put it back in.
We could put back in whatever we
I
want.
mean, unless the state regs are telling us that can't be the job description, my question is, why are we striking these things?
I would agree with that.
So, I mean, a lot of these look like in fact, all of them seem like they're relevant to what the superintendent should do, and if we should be striking them out, I get it, but anyway.
I would agree with Greg's concern.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, there were a couple, I think, that got struck out. Like, for instance, F 1 and 2 is struck out, but then H is added, and it seems to just kind of transfer language about public relations and stuff like that to another section. But some of it, it just takes language out altogether. And I agree with Greg. I'd rather have more language in there to cover stuff than less language in and more ambiguity.
Right, I think F1 and 2 are then addressed in H3.
Exactly.
4, so, I mean, some of it is just a redistribution
Right.
of the responsibilities are all there, just sort of redistributed.
I would agree with that as well.
Right, those I agree are redistributed. Others, I think, just disappear. And it's the ones that disappear,
Let's table
I think.
this one, and let's have this as one of the policies that's read in the next policy committee
Okay.
meeting.
Yep, we will take that under advisement. Evaluation of the superintendent. Any comments?
We had done the same with that, actually, last time. Both 1230 and 1240 were for first reading on the April 7th, and we had decided to table both of those for exactly the same reason, that a bunch of stuff was taken out that we thought perhaps shouldn't be taken out.
So do we think it shouldn't be taken out, or do we?
So for
Not
this
clear.
We were
one, I
looking for
thought
advice from
that
you.
it was much clearer
Yeah,
that the responsibilities were readdressed
Yeah.
in the different pieces of the policy.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, say that again?
In this policy, I thought that, to me, it was much clearer that the things that were struck were then readdressed in other language that was inserted. So this is sort of a zero sum to me.
I would feel very comfortable moving this one.
I have a question. On policy 1240, on page 4 of 4, it references in the second, after the first paragraph that's struck, it says the evaluation procedure for a non-tenured superintendent shall be completed by July 1 each year. I thought superintendents don't get tenure.
I had that question, I have a question mark over it.
Yeah.
They don't get tenure.
No, they
get
don't.
contract.
Right.
So I'm not sure,
So should that be changed?
yes.
Is that a phrase that the state uses for some reason?
No, I thought tenure got,
Actually, if they already have tenure, they probably retain tenure. I don't know that they lose. If a superintendent already has
Has
tenure,
tenure.
I don't know that the superintendent could lose
Lose it.
tenure.
no, I thought that tenure was done away with, and that all
You
contracts
cannot
are...
attain tenure anymore. I'm not sure that it was abolished or for
Right, in other words, teachers
Existing.
or superintendents that had it when it was changed would probably still have
They
tenure.
may have been grandfathered. I'd have
But
to
in
look
any
at
case,
the
it
law.
doesn't apply here. We don't have a tenured superintendent, so it doesn't apply to us.
But it could apply.
It's not going to
No.
ever
No, it
apply
will
that
never
way.
No, it couldn't.
Right, because they're right, it's
No, it's gone.
they're grandfathered, right. Okay. So then, that's fine.
So what do? Do we take that out or just take out?
The evaluation,
We could strike through the word non-tenured.
Yeah.
Yeah, all we have to do is strike the
Well-
word non-tenured,
yeah.
because we have to do the evaluation anyway.
And as long as we don't negotiate it in their contract, then this would apply.
Let's do this. If we're going to review 1230, let's review 1240, and let's just make sure, sort of in a line by line or a paragraph by paragraph, that the items that we want to keep in here are actually in here in the new reading. I mean, I see most of them. I don't want to necessarily just be comfortable with the most.
All right, so we'll take that one under advisement as well.
I will just say there's one typo in that one.
There's a bunch of
Okay, so we'll go through that one.
There's a
Okay.
lot of typos in a lot of them.
Well, there was one specific one in this one, but if we want to deal with it now, I can just,
You can
So
just,
my suggestion about the typos is is just to give them to Linda, because they
Okay.
are just that.
Okay.
They're not substantive changes, or what do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea.
sure, that's fine.
Because then when Linda presents them to us, she'll have the
Right.
corrected versions. The next one is 1581. It's a full rewrite of the policy, or an adoption of the policy. Comments?
Nothing.
Moving on. 2412, home instruction, first reading. This is just due to health conditions?
Yeah, this policy was split into two policies.
Yeah.
Saw a typo.
Okay.
There's a bunch in this one, yeah.
Take that under advisement and send it to Linda.
Typos, talking about process, not that we're passing the motions right now, but for typos, are we passing them for first reading with the typos, or are we not going to pass them at all?
The language of a first reading policy does not matter. You are reading policy by title. You're only reading the title of the policy. It has to be read in the same title for two readings in a row.
So just for the sake of understanding our process, if some of these or all of these are moved for first reading, it says that we read them.
Yes.
It says nothing more than that we read them. And whatever corrections you make, you bring back for second reading next time, and once they go through second reading, that's when they become policy.
Yes.
Correct?
But we can make corrections now.
You can
I mean,
make
we can make
corrections now.
substantive corrections
You can
now.
make any corrections you want now, but what gets moved from first reading to second reading only matters when you pass it in second reading.
Got it.
Okay. So typos can
If
be...
it's a small typo, then you could just give it to me now.
Right. Give it to her now. I just want to... There's a
On
bunch
page
of
2 of
policies.
3, the third paragraph down, the home or hour of school, I think should be out of school. Sure, there's a few others, but that's the one.
Yeah.
The second to last paragraph, it says for a student without disability. The home should have a space, and then in the third line, it has the word HOE,
Ho
which is a
instead of
garden
home.
tool instead of home. Did you see that one, Linda? Okay.
And so if we're going to do the little nitpicky stuff on 1240, policy 1240, the first, second, third, fourth, fifth paragraph. I'm sorry, page 4 of 4.
Page 4?
Yep. Sorry, thank you. Yep. In the fifth center large paragraph, kind of in the middle of that paragraph to the left, there's be subject is all one word without a space. There needs to be a space in between be and subject. It's in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sentence.
All right. 2417.
This is another one that I felt like 1230 and 1240, that there was so much stuff taken out of this that I would want a really close reading of it.
So when I read this one, this clearly says that NJAC 6A 16-8 is the superseding policy of this. So whatever we write here
But that's not a policy. That's,
is the superseding law of this regulation. And what we write here does not matter because what we're supposed to refer to is the code and not the policy under this circumstance.
Right, there's a law that
Yeah.
addresses this, so our policy is almost moved.
And that's why it's pretty much saying refer to the law.
But it also states that we should have regulation 2417, which is the way that we administer the policy.
Right. which I would assume is right from the state.
Okay, so I feel like if we're passing this, we should pass both the statute and not
Right.
the statute, the policy and the regulation
Okay.
concurrently.
Okay, so we'll table this one, and the policy committee will look at the reg. But
I'm sorry, say that again, Adam?
This policy is good to go. You know,
It is.
It's more than good to go, and I don't see the need to table this. But, okay.
Well, we can't put the policy into place unless there's a regulation, and so we can't get ahead of ourselves with the policy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Home or out of school, 2481.
This one is fine.
I have 3283 next. You don't have that one next.
I can't hear you, Ann.
I have,
2481 was not printed with the
Okay.
policies that was sent
I'm
home.
reading right
It was
from
on it was on the Google Drive, and it was also on the,
it's on the agenda.
it's on the public, what was sent out to the public.
All right, so let's table that one.
Well, it was on
We
the
can
drive.
look at it on the drive.
It was on the
Yeah,
Google
okay,
Drive.
Okay.
It was fine.
Yeah, I have no issues with this one. This one's not flagged. This one points directly to the law, and does what most of our policies do, is reiterate the laws. All right, moving to...
Oh, well, hold on. This was the one that last time I had the question about the wording for, on page 1B, the student is, this is talking about when we provide, out-of-school instruction for students, and it says the student is placed on short-term or long-term suspension from participation in the general education program. To me, that language almost implies that if a kid, or does it, I mean, maybe I'm just not reading the language correctly, that if a student has been being given an out-of-school suspension, that would apply. And I don't think that's what it means. Because I don't think we do that.
I don't understand the question.
The policy says that we are going to provide out-of-school instruction if the student is placed on short-term or long-term suspension.
It's an and.
Does that, huh?
You have to meet all of these requirements, not one of them.
Don't know,
It's A, B, and C.
following conditions.
Is my understanding. That was the way,
It-
it wasn't some of these.
It doesn't say
conditions,
that.
Under the following conditions.
They have to meet all.
The Board of Education shall provide
I don't think so. I can't imagine we can only do it if there's a court order.
Instructional services to an enrolled general education student at the student's home or other suitable out-of-school setting under the following conditions. It doesn't say under any, it says under the following.
Yeah.
No, but we
in
don't
B-
only do it under
in
court
B-
order.
In B, it says or now instead of and.
Yeah, it's, I
Before
don't
the
read it that way.
strike-through.
No,
So-
the
It
No.
says or.
short-term or long-term.
No, at
No.
the end of B, after the semicolon,
Oh, it
is
does
the word
say
or now instead of the word
apologize.
and.
So that is confusing.
Or is,
You're right.
So basic short-term suspensions, we don't provide home instruction for. Correct, Israel?
Sorry?
Basic short-term suspensions.
no, we don't.
Right, I mean, it seems like
So
the
the
problem
question is, why is this in a mandatory policy then? Because I imagine that this is not a practice that's followed in any school district.
Like, is there some legal definition of short-term suspension that, like, a 5-day out-of-school suspension doesn't cover? Like, I just don't know if there's specifics to the terminology.
I think in one of the policies about suspension, it described what makes a short-term, and what makes a long-term. I think it has something to do with 10 days.
Okay.
But that's further along.
Right. So we would need to kind of cross-reference that and make sure that we're,
Yeah.
do you happen to know? You don't happen to know where we would find that one, do you?
Suspension one?
Yeah,
It's in your
yeah.
packet.
Which one? Is it in this one?
Yeah, it's in your packet.
I read it.
Which one is that?
5610 is suspension.
No, we don't have 5,600. Oh, suspension 56.
5610.
1 to 10 days.
Let's see.
Is a short-term.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't have that one.
Page 2 of 3. You don't have it?
Yeah.
Which means it shouldn't be in there.
Only long term. But we can make this change now.
Well, but we can't, but if it's a mandatory policy, though,
But not
we
more
can't
than-
limit.
No,
we
for
can't-
one, it says for one, but not more than 10. So short-term is one. So
But we
that would
can't-
mean
we
you
can't-
suspend a kid at all.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
We can't limit the, if this policy is mandatory,
Yep.
and it's telling us that we have to provide home instruction for a student who's placed on short-term or long-term suspension, if we eliminate short-term suspension, then that's limiting the policy as mandatory.
I would agree, and I think we probably should provide instruction for people who are in.
No, when they have suspension, usually they're given
Right.
work. They're not given home instruction.
But that's
But
home,
this, that's
right.
not what this says.
Right, so
That's the difference. They're not given someone to come to their house and teach
I
them.
understand that. I understand that, and we do that after 10 days, or we do that when it's required of us. This is the state changing it, in my point of view.
Linda, can we get more information on this? Because it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm going to look up the law and see if the law specifically states that that's a requirement.
Yeah. If it doesn't, we should just strike through and approve the policy otherwise. But we can't move this motion
With that,
with
okay.
this confusion here.
Okay.
Because this is something that should not be mandatory.
Okay. Moving on to 3283. I have a number of comments on this, but I will defer to anybody at the board who has comments. There are two select requests in this, which I like to call options. So
Choose your own adventure.
choose your own adventure. So we do need to make a decision on which ones we will adopt today. Any comments? No comments. All right, I'll make my comments.
Mostly reasonable.
I think this is a long overdue policy. I think this is reasonable. It provides the appropriate caveats for us to, for our teachers and for our faculty to communicate with our students outside of the classroom environment. And I welcome the adoption of this. The two caveats, I would like to err on the side of the notification instead of the written, up the number 2 in the options.
Where are you?
Second to last page.
Second to last.
And the
Page
last
4 of
page.
5?
Page 5 of 5.
The one you're,
Right.
but the one you
Yeah,
has the last.
page 5 of 5. The one that I would recommend us putting in is 5 of 5, on page 5 of 5. Teaching staff member and student may be exempt from provisions outlined in this policy if a teaching staff member and student are relatives.
Where's the second chooser?
The first is that
Before
one.
it.
It was just the one. It was the 2, yeah, the options. Sorry.
My question with that is, do we have to define what we mean by relative?
I would assume that's the state. I would assume that that's defined by the state.
But like for taking a leave of absence for a funeral, it's defined what, it's like for one type of relation, it can be a week, and for another type of relation, it can only be a day. So it's very specific. So I would think if we're talking about relatives here, we might need to specify.
So what you're saying here is that the first option is a little bit stricter in that they, not only do the family members have to provide notification, but they're subject to approval by the principal.
Yep.
The second one simply says that the family members notify the district, and that's life.
Yep.
And it's funny that you're mentioning that. I mean, so what you're saying is that if somebody's nephew is a friend, then in all likelihood, that's more likely to be treated as a reasonable friendship than if it's somebody's second cousin 3 times removed,
Yeah.
right?
Relative,
That's what you're...
relative is normally first cousin, parent.
I think that's culturally, so I don't know. I don't know that
I was
we
going
can
for the
define.
second option, but you just raising it makes me think the first option might be the wiser choice.
I don't want.
No, I don't want the first option either.
I think it's countless. It's nonsensical paperwork.
It's whatever you guys want to do. I'm thinking,
Well, you know how I feel about this.
No, I don't
Guesses?
know. I don't know how you feel about this, Dan.
I definitely think the first option is better because there's actually written notice about everything. There's written approval for everything. The second option it provides no avenue for what the notification is. So a staff member could say, I provided you notice. I saw you in the hall and we talked about it, which is, notice in one way, but it's also not really sufficient if a problem arises. I almost feel like we could probably do some sort of hybrid of these if there's a real problem, but I actually don't really think, first of all, that any principal would reasonably have a problem with this.
Can
And
we
second
just-
of all, I don't think it's overly burdensome to drop an email to someone, and then have someone write a message back.
So can we just use the second one and put in that we want written notification and not make it subject to approval? I mean, I think the part that kind of got my hackles up is that somebody would have to approve having a Facebook friendship with their child. Like that just seems preposterous. So if it's written notification, I wouldn't have a problem with somebody having to, like you said, shoot the principal an email saying, hey, my son's in the high school this year, we're friends on Facebook, But I wouldn't want it to be subject to approval.
I think it should be written, but I don't want approval either.
I don't see any problem with the approval process. It's approval that I don't think would ever be unreasonably withheld, and it just makes sure that, in today's day and age, what we're trying to do with a policy like this, what the state is trying to do with the policy like this, is to make sure that professional relationships with the students stay professional, and this is one area that is frankly not that gray, but we should let a human get involved to help determine how gray it is. I don't see any reason why there's a problem with approving it.
I agree.
I think it deprofessionalizes teachers. I think, a teacher is going to know whether a student is a relative or not, and they don't need an administrator to tell them whether a student is an approved relative.
Claire, thought?
I think that it should be specified, and I think it should be approved by the
Okay, so that's the
principal.
majority. All right, so we will have that, option 1 in the policy is read.
I guess we still get to discuss it after public comment, though, and see if that's where we still stand. Right?
Yep,
Absolutely.
yep.
And under reporting responsibilities, in the first paragraph, before it gets to the options, it does say principal or designee. Do you clarify that in the policy, or you just leave it ambiguous like that? Like it could be the principal, or we could appoint...
We wouldn't, he would.
The principal
The
can
principal would.
The principal would designate somebody? Okay. Or she?
Yep. All right, moving on, 4125. No comments? All right, moving on to...
Wait, there's a fill in the, oh no, I'm sorry,
No,
that's
no.
the next policy,
Yeah.
never mind.
what did I just do, 4219? No,
No, 4219 is next.
4219, 17 pages, let's...
Which is, we don't need, because we don't employ any commercial drivers.
I think we actually have to adopt
We
it
do have
because
to
it's a
adopt it.
mandatory policy,
Right.
but it has absolutely
Nothing to do with us.
We have to adopt it for CUSAC.
Linda, you would be the designee, the designated official?
Designated employer representative?
Yep.
I guess. Israel, do you agree?
Yeah. Comes with no raise in pay, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get a stipend for that?
No.
But luckily, it comes with absolutely no additional responsibilities either.
I was wondering about item, or part 6 of this, I don't know, the very last,
Did we figure out our options
15 of 17? Yeah, it's just a blank. Linda's name is in the blank.
What's that? No, page 5 of 17 has an optional
As an
element.
option. I mean, it feels ridiculous to be choosing options for a policy we have no use for.
Just saying.
But I thought the second
We
one,
shouldn't have a policy that says optional in it.
Agreed.
We should pick one.
We should,
so I thought the second option was, when I read through, I thought that was the better.
Agreed.
yeah, the whole section is optional.
Yeah.
I just have an X next to it.
So we can get rid of
Just
that
strike it.
section because
We won't be drug testing our non-existent employees.
we have non-existent bus drivers, so
we
we
can
don't actually have to test them.
We can reevaluate it if we ever do that.
Is that all the way to page 9, Linda?
It seems like it would go all the way to number 5.
No, the option is just on the page.
No.
No, it
No,
goes all the way.
it's the
yeah.
bracketed.
It's bracketed right here.
But you have to look at the next page, and it starts on A.
I see, he does have bracketed.
Oh, yeah.
I see.
Oh, there's a bracket.
So maybe just there.
Yeah, it's just it's just the short bracket.
Good call, Greg. All right, on page 15,
Yep.
this documentation is all just by the employer of the driver, right? This is not a district requirement. Yeah.
Right, since we don't actually hire them,
I mean, all of this is.
and we don't drug test them, the
private company has to.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, but if we were ever to, we would have to hold, we would hold those records. Everybody good?
If ever there was an incentive to continue to not directly employ.
It's the 15-page policy.
Okay. 5200, this is going to have some comments on it, I would assume?
Attendance.
What about 4283?
42, I don't have
That wasn't in the
4283.
pocket, it's in the Google Drive, but it wasn't in the packet.
I have no comments on
4283
5200.
is the same as the 3283 that we just did. It's just electronic communications between support staff and students. So it's the same thing.
That's not on the agenda, though.
Yeah, I think it is. No? Why would we do one and not the other? That doesn't make sense. I think that may just be.
there's 3283, is that what you meant? No.
There's no
What,
42.
Oh, yeah, 42, yeah, but there was, yeah, it was
So-
on the
That's on-
drive.
it's
And
on
it's
it.
the same, it's the same policy as the teacher and electronic communications. This is for support
That's
staff,
fine,
so.
We'll take it up
Okay,
next
so we'll
time.
have to.
For
pull it next
52,
time.
I have nothing on
I have,
this
I have
attendance
some things
policy.
on this.
Wait, I'm sorry, which policy are we on right now?
5200.
200.
Attendance.
Yeah, I think, so here's the deal. We require 162 days of school while the state requires, I'm sorry, 182 days, while the state requires 180 days of school. We had specific language,
This year it's actually, it's not, because we.
I know. All right, this year.
They had professional development.
Right, this
so-
year we took it away,
Yeah.
and the year before because of Sandy, and,
Right.
but in our contract, it says we offer 162 days of school.
82.
Sorry, 182 days. Well, I'm reading from here. This thing says,
Well, because it's saying if they fail to attend
Right.
162, so meaning you can't be absent for more than 20 days.
right, so that's why I'm reading it. I'm reading it from 162 from the policy. I think the policy needs to be consistent with the amount of days that we offer in the district, and we acknowledge that 100 and,
So I think what we need to say,
Yep.
because this has changed now for 2 years in a row,
Yeah.
is we need to say 20 days as opposed to 160, you can be.
Well, but the whole language is struck out
but
in this policy.
actually, we only allow 14 days because of the rotating schedule, right?
So it's 10%.
It's 10%, if 162 days is 10% of 100, is 90% of 180 days. It's based on the 180-day year.
Right.
So I think we can just
may
say,
have been part of the
give a
form of
percentage
mandate.
rather than a number.
But all that language is struck out in this policy.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's struck out in this policy is anything related to our open campus policy.
Yep.
So it seems we need to keep that in
Yep.
if that's.
So this one's not getting moved tonight.
All right.
So that one will get further reviewed by policy before it comes back to us?
Wait, well, let me hold that off. The policies that are reviewed by policy committee are only the 1,000 policies. The policies under your code should be reviewed by the committees.
Okay.
So this is a policy that should be referred to the curriculum committee. And the 24, I believe, is to the curriculum committee as well. So the policy committee will take under advisements the 1,000s. The curriculum committee has the 2,000s and the 5,000s. The personnel communications have 4,000s and 9,000s, I believe, but we're not at 9,000, so we're only at four. So personnel committee gets well, we're going to move commercial bus driver tonight?
Well, and we're going to move support staff members, I thought, too.
So, all right, so the no responsibility goes to the personnel committee.
Yeah.
So, but,
Adam, I have a question.
yes, absolutely.
So what exactly does prolong mean?
To which
That's
one?
so vague for policy, the 5200. It says
The
prolong
first
the
page?
repeated absences,
5,200, you mean?
right? As opposed to,
Buddy.
I think it would have been more specific, any student who fails to attend, let's say 90% of
I've
students
spent-
shall be given.
This
So
board-
the
That's very
committee is
specific.
going
Yeah.
to have to review that policy.
And I
It
think-
won't be more specific.
Sorry, the one thing that I like about our attendance policy is this was actually written by us, by board members at this table. over the course of several years to craft it to the policy that we want our district to represent. This policy obviously is directly from the state, and as it happens often, we lose a lot of that personal touch that we like. So when it gets referred to the curriculum committee, I would hope that they would make changes in the final board. When it gets brought up for first and second reading, the board would make those changes to adapt it to what we offer here and how we want it to reflect. Okay. So that is now hereby remanded to the 52 to the curriculum committee. Suspensions.
Remanded into custody.
The Board of Education. I'm not reading that. I don't know why I started reading that.
The optional thing on page
Wait,
2.
I'm sorry, which one are we on?
We're on suspensions.
5610.
5610.
Oh, right, and I don't have this printed up for some reason.
You're taking
I'll
these
just get on the drive.
suspensions. So this whole section is optional.
No, I think it's just the bracket.
Just that bracket, right, sorry, just that bracket.
paragraph, yeah.
When it was bolded, I got confused. I would choose not to put it in.
Why?
It's the board, can err on the side of the discretion. The meaning of suspension. Just
Yeah, it kind of seems like it might protect the student a little bit.
while giving up.
It's a due process.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's fine.
You want it in?
Yeah, because it's giving student rights
Okay.
that hold the board responsible for following its policy.
Okay.
On the third page, in the second paragraph, Linda, it says each instance of a shore.
Where are we?
In the second paragraph, in the first full paragraph, it said in each instance.
I guess that should be short.
However, I would like us to take I know this is a mandated policy and there's not much we can do about it, but I would like to take an overall look at the way that we discipline in this district. And I think this is one of the policies that addresses that. And I would like us to kind of figure out what our mission statement is and why we are disciplining in the overall, and what we want, what are our goals from that discipline. I'm not saying this needs to happen tonight, but to go onto your agenda for one of your reports, let's start talking about why we're disciplining kids and how we're disciplining kids and the reason for it, and if there are better ways.
Yeah, I agree. I've asked for that a couple of times too.
So, okay. Removal, 5610, so 5611. Any comments?
There's a typo on the second page, in the first paragraph, second line. It should be placement, not placent.
Is there another policy for weapons that are not firearms?
Yes. My favorite one, 5612, nobody touched me. I'm a board member, can't assault me. Any comments?
This is okay with me to move the way it is.
Yeah. 5613.
Oh, I see.
Yep.
Wait, 56, did we talk about 5612?
That's the result on board members.
Oh. And are we moving that the way,
Yes.
I thought we were still on the firearms.
No, we're moving that one too.
Okay.
We're moving 5611, 5612, and anybody have comments on 5613? With that being said,
Hold on.
okay.
No.
All right, 5620.
That wasn't actually in my packet either.
That's not in my packet.
So,
Oh, yes, it is.
Oh, yeah.
it's the last page.
Sorry, that's
Yeah.
Okay.
It's putting code in there. I have no changes. Just, as I said earlier, comments. Let's evaluate what we're doing in terms of discipline. That concludes the policy agenda for tonight.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you for that. Thank you for bearing with me on that.
So could you just based
I
on
knew,
our...
I knew somebody was going to ask me, what am I moving tonight?
Linda,
What are you not that you're moving it now, but what are you actually planning to move? So if there are questions...
can you
we know what we're-
review the policies that will be moved
Yes.
during the board action?
We will be moving policy 1581, 2412, 3283, 4125, 4219, 5610, 5611, 5612, 5613, and 5620.
Can you do the first couple ones again? 1581.
Yes.
Sorry.
That's okay. We'll start 1581, 2412. You want me to continue to the next page? 3283, 4125.
Okay, I'm good after that.
Got that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
And
I'm
all other policies are referred to the appropriate committees.
Okay, and do we have a system in place for tracking that? Because this is what happened last time. 1230 and 1240
It's the chair.
were supposed to go back for, they were tabled, they were supposed to go back, and now we're,
It's the responsibility of the chair to put it forth.
okay, so 1230, 1240 goes to you for policy,
Yep.
right? And then what was the other one that's going?
The other ones that are going are the ones that are not read, which are
Do something in fact.
Yeah. Well, we'll get them to you. It just,
So there's 2417. Which committee does that go to?
Curriculum.
twos and fives go to curriculum, fours go to personnel.
And what was the other 500 one?
The other 500 going to you is attendance.
5,200. Okay, so 2417 and 5,200 is going to curriculum.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
So then we wouldn't see it probably or we might see it on the next agenda?
You can, yeah, it's up to the chair of the committee.
But we're on a deadline, right? I mean,
We're
all of this
on-
has to be done for CUSAC by November, so it's,
Yeah.
By the end of the year.
no, I think I talked to Linda today. Okay.
For CUSAC, by the end of the year?
I would guess by the time they come in,
I think CUSAC is in January.
probably January, February, yeah.
So we'll review with the master list that Israel gave us, and then the ones that are not on here, and we'll have the committee chairs look at the policies that are relevant for each of the committees.
Comments between committees can happen via electronic communication.
Right.
So feel free to do that. And also, just Israel and Linda, just get another batch on here for the next meeting, for the first reading.
Oh, we will.
I trust you will.
And can we get them for me, it would be a lot helpful, the sooner we can get them, the better. Like getting them on Friday late afternoon for Monday is a little brutal.
You have a list now of all the ones that need to be moved.
And they're online.
They're online, and the bolded, you have all of the bolded
What
ones.
Israel handed us today, you mean?
Yes.
Is that is that our goal? But, are we saying that's our goal for the next meeting?
Well, we're at we've made it through the 5,000s, and I would imagine there's not much left. There's
The
probably
bolded ones.
the bolded ones are.
Just the bolded ones.
There's looks like 12 left,
Okay.
if that.
I think fewer.
When do we get them from Strauss Esme?
We get policy alerts from Strauss Esme when
10
they
left.
come out with new policies as a result of some new legislation or other changes. So it's not on any specific regular period, it's just they come.
So it might be the case, though, that from this list, some of these mandatory policies haven't changed at all.
very
Okay, so what we need to do is we need to look at the mandatory policies. We need to look if there's a more
Right.
recent version. If
Right.
there is, we should just send
They
it
do,
out.
And that's what we did on our committee. We would review each one, look at when's the last release date on Strauss Esme, and look at when's the last board approval date. And if there was a release from Strauss Esme after the last board approval date, that
We would go with that one.
they would need to
but
review it.
if you could do that for the ones that are on Israel's list and just send those out.
We'll start with the bolded ones.
Perfect.
And
Thank
so
you.
we are, I guess this is my responsibility as the chair, we are tracking what we have and what we don't have And this complete list needs to be filled out as adopted by the end of this, by the end of this board term. So
I'm sorry, what is that list that you're holding
this
up?
is the list of all of our policies, and they need to be in our book by the end of this year. And you can see that there are numbers next to the ones
No,
we
I
have.
can't see that.
None of us have seen it.
No, you guys don't have 2015 vision? But, all right, well, we're on pace to do this, to accomplish this, but there's some work to be done. That's all I have to say.
So before next board meeting,
No, not board meeting, board term.
you didn't let me finish my
Sorry.
question. So before next board meeting, does the curriculum committee need to meet to look at these policies that are getting sent to the committee, or do we do it at our next curriculum committee meeting before next board meeting?
Feel free to have the conversation through electronic communication. Also, a policy like this you should be able to do at your meeting. I don't see why, and move it. You should be able to do it at that meeting and move it that night.
But wouldn't it be helpful for Susan or Linda, I don't know who
I
types
think
them
it
up, to
depends
have the
on
changes
depends on
beforehand,
what
so
the
we could get the
Claire,
changes for the
it
next
depends
meeting?
on what the policies are. If there's 5 policies to look at and they're all mandatory and there are not many strike-throughs, then we could probably do it in committee. If there's, some of these ones have had massive changes, so we would look to, and finance and personnel would look to have a meeting that was outside of the regular meeting time.
Right.
Okay.
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 The Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation and has reserved this time for your comments. Feel free to come up and state your name and your address, and please sign in on the ledger when you have completed that.
Kimberly Crane, HPEA President. A few items for recommendation and clarification. The policy on electronic communications between teaching staff members and students. We had some comments and some recommendations.
Okay.
The school server is down often, so we would just request that, this is more of an administration issue, we would just request that there be something in place that if we need to contact students and our email is down, that we have a discussion at some point about a secondary way to get information to students. I'm just foreseeing issues. I don't know what those issues would be, but the server is often not
Kim,
working.
Kim, from my
it went
understanding
down
of the
today.
policy, you're able to contact students if you are contacting them for school or extracurricular activities in a number of different ways, via text message, social media, and all of that. I believe it says that in the policy.
But I think it says with permission.
You're not supposed to use your home email address. So
Right.
if the servers are down, then that's obviously an issue.
Right,
Gotcha.
right.
So
It's
there's got to
school-
be
school email only.
some kind of plan put in place by the building principal
Right.
and a notification system about if servers are down, what to do, because obviously work's got to keep going.
That would go in the regulation, however, not the policy.
I mean, there's a lot of common sense
Yeah.
statements in this policy, and we're not opposed to that. We just would like to have a conversation about a different plan that would be in place in case that happens. On page 2 of 5, item number 6, communications requesting or trying to establish a personal relationship with students beyond the teaching staff member's professional responsibilities. The concern is who defines what the staff member's professional responsibilities are. If that's the state, or there could be some language put in as far as to who would be defining that. There's no issue if it's an arbitrator or if it's something that's clearly defined, but we don't want to leave that up to someone's personal preferences.
Kim, tell me where
Item
you're
6.
looking at again? This is on,
Page 2 of 5.
wait. Of 3283?
Yep, 3283.
Okay, and which item?
Number 6. We just ask that that be clarified, that who would be determining that it was a staff member's professional responsibility be clarified.
Wouldn't that be your direct supervisor?
Well, direct supervisor, people have different relationships with their direct supervisor. We'd like to keep it consistent across the board. So, you can discuss what language that would be. It's a recommendation.
Yeah, it's your direct supervisor. It would be your direct supervisor, and then your principal as well, who understands your job, who writes your job description and understands.
The principals don't write the job descriptions.
The administration does, and they act on behalf of them.
Well, if we could see language that would, maybe you could have a discussion and you could clarify that, put language in.
Okay.
That would be helpful. Let's see my notes here. Is there a plan in place for students? Another concern was that there may be times, for instance, on field trips where you need to give out a personal cell phone number or something like that. We've had that with not with the kids, but with parents, with Camp Bernie, and in the higher grades, with high school field trips, their personal cell phones have been given out. If the supervisor determines that this is an appropriate way to communicate with kids during the field trip, is there anything that is put in place if those students then use the number inappropriately after the fact? No one's requiring that we give out our numbers. I know that there's been a lot of respect in the past. No one has ever said you must give out your personal cell phone number. But if someone chooses to, and administration approves that for a specific use, would there be something in place to protect staff or?
So this policy only addresses the communication going in the other direction. So that would be, I think that would actually probably end up being a separate policy.
Policy.
This policy is specifically teacher to student communication.
Okay. I wrote in highlighter, so I'm having trouble reading this.
But the title is Electronic Communications Between Teaching Staff Members and Students, so that sort of implies.
But the policy, if you read through the policy, it addresses pretty much the ways in which teachers can communicate and should not communicate with students.
Well, we do have other policies that have a title that addresses both of that, where the clarification goes both ways.
Well, that's where it actually, under reporting responsibilities on 4.5, it does actually cover in the event a student sends an improper electronic communication as defined in this policy to a teaching staff member, that this teaching staff member is then expected to report it, and then that the principal or designee will take appropriate action. So I think it is covered.
Okay.
Well, that may answer the question.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's then incumbent upon the teacher to report it and then the principal to act.
And we would just like to maintain that, staff would not be required to give out their personal cell phone numbers, that would never be a directive, that would be something that was a choice if the field trip or whatever it was required that.
It says teaching staff members may throughout the policy.
Also, I think it was page 5, you were making a choice between two of your exemption options. We'd like to recommend that you use language that's even less specific, or we would like you to consider that. Something like staff and students would be exempt from this policy at approval of the principal or superintendent, something like that, because there are so many situations, like this is specific to family, because we're a very close-knit town. There are many situations where that person is not a relative, they're a godmother, but they're not a relative. They have other social communication between staff and students because we're a very close-knit town. So we'd like you to consider making that even less specific and just have it based on approval of administration and use the wording and just make that a lot easier to clarify for everyone. And going back to what Darcy said earlier, there's a professional responsibility between teaching staff and the communications that we have. It's pretty much common sense. And with the approval of an administrator, that should be enough to cover whatever concerns there would be. And that leaves room for a private conversation too. Like, look, this is my godchild. We have this relationship. It can be approved by the parent or guardian, and that should cover your needs, the policy.
Okay. Thank you.
There was one more question. This was a personnel item, number 6, for the recommendation of Marcia Snyder to temporary part-time paraprofessional. This was an inquiry, is this a position that was going to be included in our bargaining unit? Is this someone that is going to be a member of HPEA?
I believe it has to.
Right.
Yeah, it's a paraprofessional position, so, yeah, I believe that it has to. The
So that was the intent.
complication is that it is in a confidential office, and so some confidentiality needs to take place, and often in a confidential office, those staff members need to be outside of the bargaining unit for that reason, that confidential matters are discussed. So I think this may be a matter that requires further discussion, just due to that fact.
Our request would be that she would be in our bargaining unit. There are other school districts in Middlesex County and throughout the state that you can look to. There are several school districts that have the business office staff in their bargaining unit. It is with just like we have confidential secretaries here to our administrative staff, they have certain responsibilities that go beyond what a regular staff member would have. They have a responsibility of confidentiality to staff and to their administrators. So you may want to look at that.
Which school districts can we look into for this?
I'm sorry?
Which school districts can we contact to see how they do it?
You know what? I can get you a list. I just was talking to somebody about this at President's Forum, and I can get you a list.
If I could further request narrowing that list down to districts that have smaller offices where there are no segregation of office space. I know in larger districts, they may have, the business office may be comprised of 4 or 5 different working spaces, some of which are dedicated to functions that do not require the level of confidentiality that may be required in personnel or anything regarding negotiations or anything like that. So an office such as ours where, you have a small office and a lot of different hats have to be worn in the same office.
I don't remember a time when we've had people in that office as part of the unit.
We have never had a paraprofessional in the office.
Okay.
So this is a unique situation for us, and I welcome further information from you.
Okay.
Yeah, I was looking for clarification for this too. This seems like a very gray area to me, and I was...
It's complicated.
Yeah. Like I said, we're happy to have more members. We're happy to have this person included into our unit. We just requested clarification on that, and I will get you those
Thank you.
school districts to investigate. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Is there any other public comment?
Real quick.
Yes.
We want to thank the board for listening to our student report and responding also and following up. But at this time, we want to know if we could be dismissed and go home. That's
Sure.
okay.
Feel free.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No problem.
Heal that ankle or ankle?
it's fine. It's totally fine.
It's just for show?
I just use it for games.
Ah, okay.
Good evening. My name is Deirdre McInerney Leo. I live at 406 South 2nd Avenue. I have 3 children in the district. Well, one son just graduated this past spring. My other son is a junior, and my daughter is a kindergartner in Irving. Full disclosure, I also teach ESL at Bartle and Irving. I've come here tonight to talk about my daughter's gym class. It takes a lot of courage for me to come before this board. This board has been my employer for the past 22 years, and it's made it possible for me to raise my children in a truly wonderful town. This is the first time I've stood before the board to complain about something. I believe that it is unsafe to have 3 classes of young children taking gym in the Irving School Gymnasium at the same time. Part of gym should be kids running around, but with about 65 children, that either becomes unsafe or impossible. So I urge the board to move forward with a schedule change as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
118 South 2nd Ave. It was just a quick suggestion I wanted to make via Melissa Newman. We both agreed that the policies, the links to the policies, it would have been good to see that on the agenda online. This was quite a thick amount of policy, thick packet. So it would have been helpful if we had some sort of hyperlink or something attached where we could go to look at the policies before we got here. So that was just a quick suggestion. And also, I wanted to ask if there was any movement regarding the ESL children that were all grouped into each of the classrooms. We had heard that there were 12, I think it was the 3rd grade. And then we had heard that there were 6 and 7 moved else, or 6, there were 13 altogether, 6 and 7, I had heard. But I didn't know if that was actually occurring, if there was any movement in that, or were the ESL students still all grouped together in that one classroom?
There is a specific classroom that has, I believe, 12. I'm going to be meeting with Bill Shalala, who is overseeing ESL, and we're having that conversation on Wednesday.
Wednesday, okay.
And I'm hoping to report back by the next board meeting.
That would be great. Okay, great, thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Clara, could we have the curriculum items moved, please?
Yes, hold on while I scroll.
That's my way of protesting the swivel chairs, or the lack thereof.
Okay.
I need an email in January.
Wait, I don't have any additions, right?
No, the other
No.
one was finance.
Okay. All right, so I would like to move items 1 through 3 on the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Linda, could we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Ms. Simoresti?
Yes.
Mr. Dietz?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Scherber?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Adam, could we have the finance items, please?
The finance, I'll move items 1 through 12 on the addendum.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion on any of the items from the Finance Committee report? Linda, could we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Ms. Simoresti?
Yes.
Mr. Dietz?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Scherber?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
And could we have the personnel items, please?
I'd like to move items 1 through 8 on the agenda, please.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion of those items?
I'm wondering if we want to consider tabling 6 in lieu of the questions about union representation, or exactly how that position is going to function. I don't.
That won't change anything.
Yeah, whether they're in the
Yeah.
union or not is a separate question.
Okay.
The need to hire them is immediate.
Yeah. It won't change anything.
Is there any other discussion?
I'm not
sorry.
inclined to
No.
table.
There's no need to.
Linda?
Did we say that?
Ms. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Ms. Simoresti?
I'm going to say yes on 1 to 5. I'm going to say no on 6, and 7 to 8, yes.
Mr. Dietz?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Scherber?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Adam?
I would like to move policies. 5181.
1581.
Sorry, 1581, 2412, 3283, 4125, 4219, 5610, 5611, 12, 13, and 20.
For first reading?
For first reading.
So moved.
Is there a
No,
second?
wait, second.
Is there any further discussion about those items?
Ms. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Ms. Simaristi?
Yes?
Mr. Dietz?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Sherber?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
For the President's report, I just want to report about the Communications Task Force, which we will be hearing more about at the next meeting. Matt Hirsch is going to be giving a presentation. He sent me a draft about some recommendations that are related to communicating better between the board and the community. One of the things that we're going to be doing immediately is we're going to be looking to we're going to be looking for a volunteer to help serve with communications in the district. It will be called something like the Community Communications Coordinator or something to that effect. Mr. Soto and I are going to be putting together a general description of what we would like this volunteer position to be and the type of person that we might be interested in having in this position. We're going to plan to put something up on the district website by Wednesday or so, which would be a very simple submission process of a resume. Again, this is a volunteer position. And at the next board meeting, we should be able to assign someone to that position. And that will just help sort of get another body in there, someone who's interested in helping and assisting to provide some support to the district about how communication could be facilitated in a more, in a fuller manner and in a better way. So you can look for that, and those of you who are watching at home, check the website. The website on Wednesday should have a description of the position. Again, it's a volunteer position, and there will be a submission of a resume that will be required. And by the next board meeting, as I said, we should be approving someone in the President's report for that position.
So will the board see that job description and when will we see that?
Yeah, Israel will send it out. I mean, it's going to be very simple. Obviously, it's not a job description in the same way that our jobs are, but it'll be a description of the duties and the assignments, the responsibilities that this person will have. Obviously, this position will come with a confidentiality agreement and other sorts of things, but yeah.
Is there a precedent for this kind of a position that you know of? Is this, I'm wondering where this idea came from.
Yeah,
this is the first I'm hearing of this idea.
This has been in a long conversation with Gail Mittler and some of the folks from Borough Council, just in terms of the use of volunteers to do some of the legwork for the things that the Borough Council members are unable to do. Mm-hmm. They've had some great success with Matt, especially, and so we're looking to sort of capitalize on that same kind of idea and be able to assist the administration in that way.
And we've talked about it in public before, of having some liaison at the board to the board in terms of communication in the outside world.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, is this an idea that's been run by Jonathan to get his kind of input and his thoughts on how that would work or what any kind of liabilities would be?
Definitely.
Because communications is, it can
Absolutely.
seem simple, but you can be potentially communicating very sensitive, important information.
Well,
and
that's
what kind of
he'll
liability would
certainly
fall
be
on
the
that
person who's
a
drafting the
volunteer?
confidentiality agreement. He'll certainly be the person drafting the confidentiality agreement.
Much of the same
discussing it with that person.
confidentiality that affects us while we do deal with students, on top of it affects the borough in terms of personnel. So the overlap should not be too ambiguous.
But so we'll see all of that in advance of next. I mean, you're saying that this could potentially be voted on next week. We'll see
Next meeting.
the next meeting is what I meant.
Yep.
We'll see the agreement. We'll see the job description. We'll see all of
Early
that.
this week. Is there any old business? Is there any new business? I have one item for new business, which is about our meeting location. There's a concern that was raised about universal access with this building, especially with regard to public comment. Public comment is down steps. We have a chairlift over here, but we don't really have someone to operate the chairlift. The front door has been an issue where the access isn't quite right. So I just wanted to bring this to everyone's attention. This is a concern. We have been, for many years, we held our meetings at the middle school, and there was certainly no access issues with that room. So that's just something that I would bring up for our discussion. We can, potentially move our meetings back to the middle school, which, there was a reason sort of to move it in here in this space. There was the thought of a need. This is a concern now that I think is a very real concern. So we should.
Linda loves this conversation.
This building has access. We have ensured that the handicapped access door is unlocked for board meetings. We have requested our facilities director to make sure that there is signage at the entrance, at the handicap entrance to the building, to direct them toward the elevator, which will be unlocked for board meetings. And from there, we can, certainly make sure that this is available and that we have the key, or that the custodian can operate it, or we can make sure that. I mean, this building is accessible, and this room is accessible.
Sure. So then, obviously it's the conversation about what would we like to do, right? The question about, would we like to have the chairlift going up and down in the meetings? Is that something that,
There's
that's
an
certainly
easy answer. Just take it to the middle school.
Right.
There's nothing we need to discuss.
I like the middle school
is
as a location.
infinitely more accessible. Let's just go there.
Well, but I think part of the issue was it was very convenient particularly for Linda. Her office is here, all of her stuff to lug around, and the building is accessible. I mean, to me, if the building is accessible, it is accessible.
It's not accessible. I've had family members in wheelchairs, and this meets the law, and if you have to do it this way, then you have to do it this way. But if we have a facility where people can get into the room without having to be carried up steps, even if it's on a lift, and they can enter the main...
they don't have to be carried up steps.
Right here.
Right here.
Right here. And if they...
No.
This is the clear audible.
If they can enter the building in a convenient way and get into the room in a convenient way, we should provide
It's like the
it. We
Holiday
can.
Inn
Let's
to
just
the
go to
Ritz.
the middle school. It's not a big deal.
Yes, and the middle school is a lot nicer place, and it's something we should do. And we can do it at the beginning of the next board meeting, or we can do it for the next meeting, the next board year, or we can do it.
Let's just start going over there.
How about if everybody thinks about it?
Yeah.
We can talk about it at the next meeting. In the meantime, Linda's taken the steps to make sure that at least the doors are open, and Israel as well. The doors are open to doors outside that are handicap accessible. We have had conversations about the lift, but let's just think about that perhaps for the next meeting.
It would make people's lives a lot easier to not have it here. Just put it that way.
Is there any other new business?
Any new business? I would like to follow up on what, I'm going to get her last name wrong, Deirdre brought up. Do we have a timeline for the master scheduling plan?
It's really a building issue. The building principal
No, it's part of the scheduling issue.
What do you mean? The gym?
Yes, that's part of the master schedule issue.
I think that the question of safety is a building issue.
But
I think
the
that
60
part of
kids
the
being in the room
conversation,
is part of
the
the master
conversations
schedule.
that are going on about scheduling certainly could, fit into that. But the question I think first to be raised is what the actual condition is from a school safety perspective, what the administration feels about that. The administration, I think, would then report to Israel about it, and then I think they could have a conversation from there. And I think if there are specific concerns, I think, obviously observation walkthroughs should be done in the room to check out how the room is actually working.
So there are two questions here. Number one, are we talking about, is it a safety issue or is it a perceived safety issue? That's a discussion that I'll have with the principal and the gym teacher. Tomorrow I will have that conversation with both. And clearly we all know that there is a scheduling issue that we're trying to deal with. We have a task force assigned to that. And so I'm going to be meeting with them soon to get a report where we're at in that process.
And do you have an idea of when?
Well, if there are going to be any scheduling changes, we all agreed that it'll be effective January of 2015.
Okay.
And I was not prepared to make a decision of any type of changes in altering a schedule and altering the lives of kids, particularly in the classrooms. Once they report back to me, they know, they have their working orders that first week of December, they are to submit to my office a new schedule for consideration. And at that point, we'll make decisions on what we're going to do.
Okay, that sounds great. And I just wanted to point out that this isn't just an issue at Irving, this is also an issue at Bartle, that there are 3 classrooms, 60-plus children in the gym at the time. My own daughters have come home and reported overcrowded conditions in the gym, running into kids. It certainly does not sound like an ideal situation, and this is part of the master schedule. This is not the way that we've done this in the past. To my knowledge, if I'm incorrect, someone can correct me, but we've never had, again, to my knowledge, more than 22 classes in a gym at a time. So this is a new consideration this year based on the master schedule. So I would want to make sure that those same things are done at Bartle, that Mr. Benjamin has consulted, that there's walkthroughs of the gym to see how that looks in real time.
Is there any other new business? Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation and has reserved this time for your comments. Okay, we need a resolution to go into executive session at 6:30 p.m. on October 20th, 2014 at Bartle School to discuss personnel, litigation, and negotiations.
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.